I'd like to call to order the June 25th public hearing for the City of Tampa's Barrio Latino Commission. Welcome, everyone. I'm Rich Simmons, Chair of the Commission. If you're here to present a project, you have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff presents staff report. We will then ask for public comment. Please state and spell your name clearly if you're here to speak for or against the project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments. Following public comment, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Next, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. After the public hearing, no further testimony can be given. The commissioners will then discuss the case and make their decisions based upon Chapter 27 of the City Code of Ordinances, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review Committee comments, and the testimony given at this public hearing. The BLC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. And we'll start with the introduction of the commissioners, starting on my right.
Vivian Salaga, Preservation Architect.
Leaving Win.
Liz Welch.
Roberto Torres.
Richard Cahill.
Okay. And from staff today, we have Dennis Fernandez, Alexis Guzman, Heather Bonds, and Kamari Pettis-Mackle from Legal. We're going to change it up there.
That's right.
Okay. We have minutes in our packet from the May 28th, 2024 meeting. Is there a comment or a motion on those?
Motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, May 28th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Fernandez.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architects Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Welcome to this morning's hearing and workshop. I did want to just welcome our newest commissioner, Commissioner Cahill, who is coming under the building construction seat and just recently appointed. We welcome you, and we appreciate your willingness to serve on the Barrio Latino Commission. This morning, we will be holding a workshop immediately following this housekeeping and the election of officer actions that we're engaged in. The workshop will be divided up into segments. I'll kind of give an introduction when we get to that point, but I did want to utilize our time well today, and having to come for the continuations made sense to try to incorporate some additional conversation that we've been requested for a while. Also, just a reminder, we are in the summer months, and there are a lot of other activities that are going on, but we do have full agendas already confirmed for our July and August hearings. So if you have travel plans or you think there might be conflicts, if you would let the staff know as soon as possible, we will try to accommodate that into determining our quorum when the time is appropriate. With that, we'll move on to the disclosure of ex parte communication and conflicts of interest, and our legal counsel will lead that discussion.
Good morning, Kamari Pettis-Mackle from the Legal Department. Will the commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are on the agenda?
None.
Thank you. Will the commissioners also please state whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are on the agenda? Thank you so much.
Okay, we do have two continuations to address. The first is BLC 24-00000121 with a request to continue to August 27th, 2024. The second, BLC 24-000056 with a request to also continue to August 27th, 2024. Those are under the same ownership, so you can combine those if you choose to.
All right. So move to grant a continuance in case BLC 24-00000121 for the property located at 2205 East 3rd Avenue and case BLC 24000056 at the property located at 1301 North 22nd Street and 2205 East 3rd Avenue to the August 27th, 2024 public hearing at 9 a.m.
Second.
All in favor of said motions, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Continue to August 27th.
Thank you. Moving on, we do have our annual election of officers scheduled on this morning's agenda. This had been previously continued in order to ensure that we had more representation here from the board. So with that, we do have our positions of chair and vice chair that are open for nomination. We'll begin with the chairperson. You have some options here. You can choose to retain your existing chair. You can nominate a new chair. So with that, I'll open the floor to nominations. Any nominations for the chairperson position?
Move to retain Rich Simmons as our chair.
Second.
And
You
I'll
all right
just
with
ask Commissioner Simmons if he's willing to serve in that
I am willing to
No,
capacity.
he's on for a couple years.
Thank you.
He's on for another year and a half.
Okay. Any other
Any
nominations?
other nominations?
Nope.
Okay, seeing none.
Close them. Close them. Sorry.
By a show of hands, we can affirm the appointment of Commissioner Simmons as your chairperson for the next year. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Moving on, your existing chair, vice chairperson is Commissioner Welsh. Once again, you have the option of retaining your existing vice chairperson or nominating a new one. I'll open the floor to nominations for the vice chairperson.
I'll move to retain Liz Welch as our vice chair.
Second.
And once again, just want to affirm your willingness to serve in that capacity.
And I can serve, my term ends in September or October, so I can certainly serve until that time.
Thank you, and we can address that, when that
Okay.
time's appropriate.
Okay.
Okay, with that, by show of hands to affirm the nomination and appointment as Commissioner Welch for vice chairperson.
Do I vote for myself?
It is a minus me.
Okay.
Thank you. Congratulations once again, and that concludes our election of officers.
Okay, and I guess at this point in time, Dennis, I'll turn it over. We'll make a quick introduction and then turn it over to you for the workshop.
Yes, please.
Okay? And welcome, Commissioner Susan. Good morning.
Okay, let's see. This morning, as I mentioned, we wanted to utilize your time while you were here to address some issues that have been brought up to the staff and that we want to share with you. We chose to do that in the form of a workshop. We'll try to use your time wisely and give you some opportunity to ask questions and engage in the subjects as we go along. We're going to be dealing with a review of accessory dwelling units. That was a request from one of the commissioners. It's been an ongoing subject in the city for quite a while, so we do have a staff person here to review that with you and how that pertains to Ybor City particularly. We're going to provide an overview of the Ybor. Okay, lost our presentation there. We lost our presentation. We're going to provide a overview of the update to the Ybor City Design Guidelines. Okay, there it comes. Maybe. Dealing with the new construction section with an emphasis and the process of updating the guidelines. We'll certainly give you a thorough presentation on that, but just as an aside, the update of the guidelines are under the jurisdiction of the Historic Preservation Commission with engagement to the Barrio Latino Commission for your input and a recommendation along the way. So we're going to be coming back to you again. This is not the final update, but it is something that we feel is timely. And then lastly, given enough time for this discussion, we'll deal with approaches to add additions to contributing buildings, both commercial and residential. That's a timely discussion. We're getting a number of requests for that in the district. So within the code for the Barrio Latino Commission, presents the purpose of the commission, which is the purpose of the Ybor City Historic District is to promote and preserve this historic district and its landmarks for the educational, cultural, economic, and general welfare of the public. With that, the Barrio Latino Commission is established as the architecture review board for the district. And as you know, you do have quasi-judicial authority for certain variance powers and advisory authority as well for recommendations of different natures. The first item that we're going to be dealing with this morning is a review of accessory dwelling units. We have Andy Mikulski with the City Planning Division who's here, who's going to be leading the conversation and has generously donated his time this morning to our workshop. We appreciate that. Andy?
Okay. Thanks, Dennis. How do I advance just the arrows down here? Okay. All right. Good morning, Andy Mikulski, City Planning Department. All right, so I'm just going to run through a kind of an abridged version of the ADU outreach meeting that we've been doing since last year throughout the community. So just a couple of definitions to get everyone on the same page. Definition of ADU, this is from the City of Tampa Code. It's independent units contained within, attached to, or detached from single-family dwelling on the same zoning lot. Other definitions that may be pertinent to the discussion. Extended family residence. I think you guys deal with this on a somewhat regular basis. So extended family residence are within a single family residence, a living area designed to provide independence and privacy by allowing a separate bedroom, bathroom, dining area, and kitchen for an extended family member. And there's a bunch of nuances within these categories, which I'll try to get into without making it too confusing. Let's skip those. As a quick timeline on ADUs, it's been a multi-year effort that we've been working on throughout the city. And the last thing that the last big push has started late last year, and then early this year, we're basically doubling the area of the city that ADUs are allowed. So we went through a long public outreach effort. We had 8 to 10 community meetings we went to the communities that expressed high interest in ADUs. So those are the areas that we targeted. So so the AARP actually has a really good packet on ADUs, and we have some in our planning office. If you guys want these, I can get them to you. It's just about the benefits of ADUs. So all right, now let's get into the kind of the overarching policies that guide ADUs. This is from the comp plan, land use policy 9.5.6. It's straight from the comp plan. They encourage accessory dwelling units by, it says, shall be permitted in future land use categories that allow residential development subject to regulations designed to limit impacts and protect character. So we get a lot of questions about what's an ADU, what isn't. By right now, you could build a bonus room, a man cave, she shed, whatever you want to call it, that has a separate bedroom, a separate bathroom with a toilet, with a shower. You could have a fancy wet bar with cabinets, a dishwasher, and a fridge. The only thing you can't have is a cooking appliance. So this is what flips just a bonus room into an accessory dwelling unit, is the introduction of a microwave, something as simple as a hot plate, an oven or stove. So that's how the city differentiates between just a room, bonus room, extra living area versus a whole separate ADU, which may or may not be allowed depending where you are in the city. So we'll get into that. That may come back up here in a bit, but I'll continue with the rest of the presentation. So here are just some different forms an ADU could be, going from left to right: conversion of a basement or garage, conversion of an existing structure. We have a lot of those in Seminole Heights and some of the older neighborhoods, people wanting to convert an old garage that's been there for 50 years into a living space. And they could also be a new ADU, detached or attached. So here are just some images. These are not from Tampa necessarily, but that's just the form. Some of them are detached, some of them are above the garage. All right, so now we'll get into the regulations. So this map is, this is kind of the important thing here. The area in red is the area, if council approves this Thursday, the first hearing is to expand the ADUs to this whole area allowed in red. So it's basically doubling the area throughout the city that ADUs are allowed. It's gonna cover, it's about 21% of the city land area. What's that? It's roughly half. I don't have the before, but it's essentially Seminole Heights area in East Tampa. And then we're expanding it a little bit out. So come this Thursday is first hearing, and then second hearing should be July or August, in which case this should be effective in this area. So the thing is with ADUs, they require special use permits, which is an additional permit in addition to a building permit that, well, here, I'll just get into it here. So these are the current regulations with ADUs. So when someone wants an ADU, they have to apply to the zoning office for a special use permit. And these are the criteria that staff has to judge the ADU on whether they could approve it or not. So it's a max area of 950 square feet. The main residence has to be owner occupied. So right now the owner has to live in the main house. They cannot live in the ADU. Accessory dwelling unit may not be located in a non-conforming accessory structure or structure made conforming as a result of a variance. We get a lot of those in Seminole Heights, people wanting to convert a garage that's non-conforming. Staff cannot approve it, so that's why those cases usually have to get kicked to city council. Only city council right now could overturn staff's denial. And at no time may the number of occupants exceed 2. These are the changes also that are going to be part of this January 2024 cycle, which the first hearing will be on Thursday. We are changing the special use criteria. So now if you look at letter B, we're gonna propose that the main owner has to reside on the property. So they could live in the ADU and rent out the main house. We're getting a lot of those requests, someone that's downsizing, they don't need the whole house, they wanna live in the ADU and travel half the year. Right now that's not allowed. These changes would make that allowable. Also, we're also going to give staff the authority to approve an ADU in a non-conforming structure, so they don't have to deny it. So someone could apply for a variance on that, and staff could approve it. And then we're also allowing the number of unrelated occupants. So at no time, so we're taking the total occupancy of 2 to saying no more than 2 unrelated. So that allows for the third person. If there's a young couple and they have a small child, now they could legally stay in that ADU. All right, well, extended family residences they're allowed citywide. They're essentially ADUs. They're allowed citywide, but there's some other restrictions. You can only, people that could live in there have to be part of the extended family, either by marriage, blood, adoption, or legal guardianship. So you can't rent to strangers or friends. You have to it has to be for a family member. And the other strange thing is that the occupant of the extended family residence may not pay rent. So that's the way it is now. If you have your mother-in-law back there, you can't charge her rent. So, but all right. So the current dimensional regulations. This is from city. Generally applies citywide. Each area, Seminole Heights and Tampa Heights are a little different. Even East Tampa, the setbacks are a little different. I'm not going to get into all that because it's going to get way too confusing, but that's a result of the code kind of being piecemealed over the years. We wanted to do an overarching citywide amendment, but that didn't go over so well, so we're doing it piecemeal, and as a result, each neighborhood has its own kind of standard. But the general code, as you see, generally applies through most of that ADU area. So, I won't get into all the setbacks. I'll try to get through it here. As far as parking goes, right now it's one parking space per ADU. That's in the general code. So again, it's different in like Tampa Heights. They have a little bit more. They have some parking relaxations, but I'm not gonna, like I said, I won't get into that. I could, if you guys have specific questions, I can get you those answers later. But all right, here's a slide that shows citywide the number of extended family residences. which are those kind of de facto ADUs, but only for family members. And then the ADUs are the green dots. That's how many have been approved since 2014. I think it's 114 total, whatever 38 plus 92 is. So it's just over, it's 100, 120-ish.
Yeah, the key word there is that you know of and that have been permitted.
Yes, yes, of course. And that's kind of one of the drives of us trying to allow more ADUs, because we hear every time we go out, my neighbor's building this, converting their shed in their backyard. It happens, there are ways to address that, but I think it's also incumbent on us as planners to kind of see what people are doing and then find a legal way to do it the right way, make sure the structures comply with building code.
And that it's safe,
So, important notes, we get a lot about ADUs. What about stormwater? What about parking? ADUs you still have to meet the stormwater technical requirements, so no more than 50% impervious surface area. You have to meet building codes. And then parking is generally required for the ADU. So, it's just, all right. Do you guys have any specific questions, comments? Yes,
Will you be able to share this presentation with us
I could, yeah, I could.
electronically?
Yeah, I'll send it to Dennis or Heather and
Appreciate
they
that.
can get it to you guys, so.
Thank you.
One of the questions I have is, when the city, when we allow an ADU, excuse me, how is it identified as in the address in the city records? Do we have a unit A and a unit B? Do we have a front unit, back unit? Because then what that then causes problems with is mail delivery.
Right.
Because the mailman won't deliver what the city says doesn't exist, but you clearly can see an unit A and unit B.
Yeah, that's more of a question for addressing. I honestly don't know how I think it's typically A or B, or A and B. So I actually have an ADU. Mine's not treated as an ADU with a special use. I actually have a second unit by right when I built. So I built it as an ADU. They addressed me as unit 1 for the main house and unit 2 for the rear structure. I don't know if it's an ADU, if it would be A and B, or if it'd be 1 and 2. But city addressing, again, if it's permitted, city addressing will assign it appropriately. We'll assign it an address. I know the Postal Service sometimes there's a lag between the delivery services and the Postal Service.
That's a whole nother presentation.
It is, yeah. I lived that with about a year and a half. My mail was going throughout the city,
Yeah.
and I didn't exist apparently, so. But,
One of your other requirements I saw was that it needs to have a separate meter. That's a TECO meter, power meter.
yes,
So that also requires a separate address
Right.
too, probably.
right, yes. And that's, again, like in planning, we don't, because people get into, that comes up, like, is it a separate meter or not? I mean, as planners, it doesn't matter to us. It's whatever works for the utility company and addressing. But typically, yeah, if you want a separate meter, it does need a separate address, so.
If you want, or is it required, or if you want?
It's if you want,
An ADU is the only one where you can have a separate meter.
Right.
You can't have a separate meter with like an extended family residence or
I
anything else.
will, the meter question, I'm gonna, I don't know all those answers,
Okay.
because there's so many nuances in this planning, like, I'm not really sure what all those answers are.
I do have a question on the setbacks as well,
Yeah.
and then the square footage of the structure. So it says if it's 750 or less, setbacks are 3 feet. Is that 750 just on the site, or is it across, if it's like 2 stories, is it accounting for all conditioned, spaces, or
It
how
would
is that
be
calculated?
total 100, it could be 1 or 2 stories.
Okay, so you're counting the second story as part of the square footage then?
Yes, yeah, if entire structure is 750 square feet or less, the max height is 15 feet, so. So yeah, and again, this is what, it's hard for us too, because it also depends where in the city you are. It could be a 3-foot setback, or it may be more,
Okay, right.
so, and it gets very messy, so.
I I have one more question.
Yeah.
Are you actually continuing to move through the different neighborhoods that this is impacting potentially and bringing this forward to the citizens of each of those new expanded areas potentially?
Yeah, so like, if you look at the area in red on the screen, these were the neighborhoods that, when we did a citywide survey, just a very simple, do you support ADUs in your neighborhood, yes or no? And we went to the areas that we had, the neighborhoods that had 70% support, 70% or higher, and at least 70 responses. Because we want to go to areas that actually were engaged with the survey and that also showed high support. There were some neighborhoods that we had a lot of engagement and a lot of no's, so we didn't go to those neighborhoods at this time. So there was actually a lot of support within Ybor itself, but we didn't. It was just it was getting too complicated with the historic district, trying to include that area and trying to figure that out as part of this code cycle. So we know there is support. The big thing is in Ybor, I just want to point this out. I don't know if it's in here. This was just a map that I was using just to kind of clarify my thoughts, but I'll try to walk you through it. So the light blue is the local historic district. All right, and right now, YC zoning allows for a second unit, third unit, fourth unit. It's essentially multifamily zoning. So by right, most lots could accommodate the second unit. The red lots that you see do not meet the minimum size requirements for a second unit, so it's not that many. So that's why we, at this point, if it meets the guidelines and, if you guys approve a second unit, that's kind of a de facto second unit / ADU that people can have. But we would still be interested, if the board or the neighborhood wants to explore ADUs in addition to what they already have. I mean, we could also look at that in the next code cycle or in future ones.
I just want to clarify what you just stated. So in viewing Ybor City specifically, since this is our purview, ADUs are not necessarily the term that we might hear. We might hear just an additional unit because
Right.
by rights they have that.
Right.
And they do not require a special use permit
Correct.
of any sort for that.
That's correct, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that's why it's kind of like if you made that an ADU, then you're kind of adding another process. But again, it's, if it's something that the neighborhood would be interested in, we could certainly do that, but.
I know you might not have the answer to this one, but the parking.
Mm-hmm.
I know some houses that might not have parking, they have street parking. So if there's a house and they qualify for the ADU, we're gonna make them put or justify or figure out how they can get one more parking?
Yeah, and that's parking. So I'll give you an example. In Tampa Heights, we recently created the Tampa Heights overlay. And what we did in there is we allowed the section of street in front of your lot could qualify towards your required parking. So let's say you had a house and an ADU and you had two required spots for the house and one for like an ADU, whatever your parking requirement is. Let's say you could fit the two of the spots in the street that would qualify for your requirement. So because we know these historic lots that you can't really fit all the cars, so we're trying to encourage development, gentle density, and also accommodate parking that way. So, and then in Tampa Heights too, there's, I forgot below a certain size, you don't need to provide parking for that ADU. I think it's, I won't say what it is, but below a certain threshold, you don't need to provide parking, and that's similar to what other cities have done too.
Like if it's like a micro unit, like 400 square feet or something like that.
What's that?
Like if it's like a micro unit or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and that's, a lot of cities do that, so. Okay, any other questions, or? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate that information. And as we move on, we're going to be providing you all of our presentations electronically. In addition to the drafts of the design guidelines that Heather's going to cover now. So you'll get that post-hearing electronically. So moving on, we are now going to transition into a discussion of the Ybor City design guideline update. I think there we go. And Heather Bonds will lead that discussion for you. Thank you.
Good morning, Heather Bonds, Historic Preservation Specialist. Into this. All right. So you may have seen me sitting here the last year, spying on your meetings. Part of the reason is I'm updating our design guidelines, and I really want it to be inspired by some of the things you all have discussed. So I've been taking some notes, those things that maybe you've talked about in the standards, and trying to expand that in our upcoming updates. So really the big reason why we're updating the design standards is because it's been nearly 40 years, and there's been a lot of new technologies and items to be addressed in our guidelines. Our current guidelines, as I mentioned, were developed in, I believe, 1989. So it's been some time, 86 actually. And they serve as a guide to rehabilitate existing structures and guide new construction. And we've been working hard to create a set of modernized standards that'll be codified and adopted to assist owners and developers in meeting their project goals in a historically sensitive way. Provide specific measurements of success, address modern topics, be reformatted and better organized, conform to ADA fonts for equal accessibility, promote maintenance and encourage rehabilitation over new construction, and overall create a user-friendly document. Our current preservation guidelines have been an effective and helpful broad how-to. However, we do use these as a review tool when evaluating projects going before the BLC, which can be challenging when categories are overly broad. A previous staff assessment of the existing guidelines found that there needs to be more emphasis on rehabilitation. The code lacks the necessary references to the Secretary of Interior's standards, which are codified in our code as a review tool. The new construction section lacks depth. The overall document is not formatted in a method that is informative and instructional. And some illustrations lack details required to be of assistance and tend to be extreme as a comparison method. And the advances in technology necessitate periodic updating. Again, it's been over 20 years. And we've also added additional sections to address certain elements. So beyond just listening to you guys and your discussion, we've also had several other sources and inspiration, including the existing design guidelines. The Secretary of Interior standards is a big one. They were updated, I believe, in 2017. The preservation briefs, which are continuously put out by the National Park Service, and other cities' design guidelines, and the state of Florida's model guidelines for design review. That's a very helpful tool. They actually have illustrations in there that different cities can use. So there's consistency across the city governments in Florida. And we're gonna add some information about flood adaptation, which is an important subject here in Tampa, as well as all of Florida. Here are some iterations, beginning with the existing standards to a preliminary draft where we engaged with the consultant a few years back, and then the current staff draft. So you can see where we're headed with this. We're trying to have a much cleaner and friendlier format that we use. The proposed draft components, we're trying to have a one-page sheet for each criteria, so it'll be helpful in pre-application meetings that we don't have to give them maybe a 100-page document, maybe just the certain sheets that pertain to their project. So each one will have the criteria labeled, the standard, which will have the word shall in it, so it conveys its importance. That is the important sentence that we're going to be judging each project by, or how we're going to evaluate the project. Does it meet the standard for each of these criterias? Any key terms that need to be addressed, some context, whether it's some historical background or why that criteria is important for the board to consider, the basic guidelines, and then having a summary of clear, permissible, and not permissible details for each project to be evaluated by. And the back sheet's gonna have some visual examples, whether we use diagrams, some photos, and I've even been playing with AI generator, so some of our images come from AI. Those are typically the non-permissible ones, because we don't want to shame anybody and use their property, so I'm using AI for the non-permissible. Here are the basic 6 sections. Section 1 is going to be your standard introduction and general information that's just being updated. It's going to include the YC8 and YC9 zoning districts, which are not currently in the 1986 guidelines. Section 2 is new, it's maintenance. Right now, maintenance and rehabilitation are one section. We're breaking maintenance off. We want people to be able to use these guidelines to maintain their home. That should be the first defense and preservation is maintenance. So that's gonna be a new section. I'm using some of those flood adaptations and some of the other preservation briefs that address basic home maintenance for the typical owner. Rehabilitation, one of the most important chapters. I'm working on that one right now. We're going to be using some of the positive examples that have come before this board of successful rehabilitation projects, and we're going to be reforming that into the new format. We've tackled new construction first. That is something you all see quite often, so we thought this is going to be one of the sections we needed to beef up the most. I think it is only 4 pages in the current draft, or in the existing standards. And right now, we've got it up to 57 pages. So really beefing up the new construction section. The main thing that we want to emphasize is compatibility when it comes to new construction. All of our standards under the new construction section are going to tie back to, is it compatible with the district? These are the 25 topics we've addressed in new construction. And these are how we're presenting it. One of the new sections or topics we're adding is developable parcels. That should be the first thing. Is this parcel able to have something newly constructed? So we have an empty lot or some infill. We want to emphasize that new or contributing structures should not be the properties that people are looking for to develop. Here's how scale is currently presented, and here is our current staff draft of what that page would look like. Scale is one of the most important criteria we considered in new construction. The scale of a new building and its relationship to the neighboring building is a major component in establishing compatibility and harmony within the district. So we really wanted that emphasized, especially in that standard. Presenting height. Height is another important component when considering compatibility. And here's how it's currently presented and our draft. As with scale, height is one of the most important factors. Height of a new building shall be consistent with the similar type and style of contributing structure within the district and conform to the zoning limits. This means that a new residential structure should be compared to the historic 1 to 2 story structures in height, or be designed to step down as shown in the bottom example, where the 3-story condos transition to a 2-story structure, which is directly adjacent to a 1-story contributing structure. This is how alignment, rhythm, and spacing is addressed in the existing guidelines and how the updated standards address these topics. The facade elements shall continue the established rhythm along the block. Spacing between buildings shall be kept consistent to the block. Designing the alignment and spacing of new construction shall respect the prevailing historic patterns, particularly as shown on a Sanborn map. The top picture shows a new construction project, which is one building, and how it's articulated in a way to continue the visual spatial dimensions common to the district. And here's how building materials is addressed in the 2 iterations. Building materials for new construction is an important topic. We acknowledge that advances in material manufacturing continuously produce new building options. The BLC reviews substitute materials on individual cases to determine if the standards are met. Overall, any materials proposed shall be similar in design and appearance to historic materials found in the district. Vinyl and faux replicated materials are not permissible. Here are 2 new construction projects which successfully incorporated appropriate materials found within the district, such as brick, 5E metal crimp roofs, wood bracket, arched windows, wood siding, and trim. Fenestration is always important in historic preservation, and the doors and windows shall be historically referenced and share the same insets, materials, proportions, and details as historic windows in the districts. Windows shall be appropriately trimmed with casings and sills. Doors with side lights and transom shall have the similar Mullen treatments as the door. And even when the interior use does not necessitate windows, the exterior shall have a positive void to solid ratio historically referenced from similar type buildings, such as the Toro Fronto storage building, which was built in 2016 to replicate the historic cigar factories. Murals, another new subject that we're addressing in our new construction and in the general standards. There'll be 2 sections on murals. This is specific to new construction because new construction has a unique opportunity to address murals during planning. So what we're encouraging is to, as in the bottom picture, you can see the brick border. They can incorporate that at time of planning. So we have some requirements or guidelines for planning a mural at the time of the proposal coming through. And occupied roof structures. This is another common project proposals you all are seeing where they want to add rooftop additions to historic structures. So we're addressing that. Mainly it needs to be compatible with materials and buildings in the district. And we've added some very specific numbers in here. And that will be in the guidelines when we send it to you. We'd like you to look over those numbers to see how you feel about how much roof percentage that they should be able to occupy and how far back it needs to be depending on the height of the structure. And modern technology, this is something that probably needs to be continuously updated, such as solar panels, AC, HVAC units, mainly having it shielded, especially during new construction. That's something that should be addressed on all of the plans coming before you. How are these items being shielded and not affecting the historic character of the district? So as I mentioned, the importance of the standards, we're having very specific standards for each of the criteria. So this is what staff will be using moving forward when we adopt these standards. Make sure that when we evaluate them, does the standard meet the criteria? So that's going to be the beef of these new updated standards that we really want you all to reflect on and perhaps give us your notes, if you have any, to make sure that we're conveying what should be evaluated. Overall, new construction needs to be compatible, appropriate, and referenced. Back on to section 5, which is site elements. That's what we're working on right now and completing this draft. Those are all those additional components of a site. Sidewalk furniture, menu boards, even your sidewalks and driveways. So that's going to encompass all the more or less non-historic items to the site. And then the last section is your standard references and resources. We'd also perhaps propose adding to the staff report a guide sheet. So when we evaluate, we can say right away, consistent or inconsistent with that standard. That's something that we could provide to all of the applicants so that it is very clear and transparent. What are we evaluating each project on? You have new construction coming forward. Does it meet the standard of each? So staff will use the same set of criteria, and hopefully that will reduce any projects getting denied in the future. Like everybody has the same set of standards that we're evaluating everything by. Other worksheets that will be included in the overall guidelines, project planning. a matrix to show whether a project is going to be administratively reviewed or board reviewed, the basic timelines, just giving people more transparency is the main part of these guidelines. We really want this to be a usable document. Our process is codified. So the HPC and staff initiates these revisions. The HPC staff develops the draft, which is what we're doing now. Then there's district-wide public noticing, and we receive public input back. The BLC will make a recommendation to the HPC, and the HPC makes the overall recommendation to City Council, which will hold 2 public hearings. So there's at least 4 or 5 public hearings that go along with the updating of the standards so that we can engage the public throughout. And our 2024 goals, we are mainly hoping to get each section presented to the HPC. We've already presented the new construction section to them. We will receive feedback and we'll complete all the sectional revisions, have more public meetings and solicit feedback once we have the final draft completed of the whole, all 6 sections. And we'll workshop the final draft with the BLC and HPC. We wanted to pause and have our legal counsel perhaps say the legal significance of the standards.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the legal department. As Ms. Bonds stated in one of the slides on the importance of the standards. So when the commissioners make your motion to determine whether or not to approve or disapprove or certificate of appropriateness, for example, you have to state in the basis of your motion that it does meet the design standards and put your factual findings as to how that application that is presented to you, whether it does or whether it does not meet the standards as outlined in the code. So just remember to refer to, as it's on your screen, your authority given to approve or disapprove or certificate of appropriateness is outlined in 2798 subsection G. So just continue when you're making your motions, provide the factual findings on why an application does meet or does not meet the design standards each time you make a motion.
Does that, question, does that mean that one would have to actually reference the section and paragraph of the design standards in making those motions?
So generally, when you have your staff report, it outlines in the staff report whether or not it meets the design standards according to staff. So it's imperative to use the staff report and the evidence that's submitted at the hearing as your basis to justify your motion. But staff will have their analysis of whether or not it meets the design standards, but you also have to encompass and include the information, the evidence that's submitted at the public hearing. But to answer your question, do you have to state specifically code section 2798 subsection G? I'm not saying that you have to incorporate that code section when you make a motion, but you have to make your factual findings to support whatever motion you have.
And I think Levy, as our professional motion maker, does an excellent job.
He does a fantastic job.
So, yeah, but generally, I think that we have to be in compliance with whether it's chapter 27 or the evidence presented and other references for variances.
Mm-hmm. Well, I meant specifically in the design guidelines, section 4, paragraph 5, and be that, wanting to know if we need to be that
the presentation
specific.
of what they're applying to.
Yeah.
Correct. You'll get the specific standards that you need to focus on during this, in the staff report and during the presentation of the application. And that's what you should focus your motion on whether or not it meets the standards that are presented before you.
Right.
And I think part of the concern there is with that checklist. I think that checklist is very handy for, noticing whether that project meets or does not meet the standards that are applicable to the project, to the CA or whatever the motion is. But it tends to become it's lengthier than what we've seen in the past. So, but I think that's good. I think that's a nice update to what we could be using, another tool for staff to use and us to help these projects come forward in a consistent manner within the district.
Thank you.
I like that.
And also, that chart will make your ability to make the motions easier.
The next slide was actually discussion. So if you all have any discussion you want to make about anything that I've presented so far, we'd love to hear any feedback.
How often do you review the guidelines?
Well, it's been 40 years.
Every 20 years.
I think there was a update in the early 2000s.
Okay, okay.
Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. It became very obvious that we were not going to be able to just simply update the original guidelines, that they needed sort of a wholesale reapproach. And really that is kind of period driven, because if you look at the early guidelines, they're very heavy on rehabilitation. At that time, there wasn't a lot of new development going on in Ybor City. It was, the emphasis was preservation and adaptive reuse of historic structures. We now see, obviously, that the successes of the historic district necessitate a different perspective when considering new construction in the district. We're seeing larger parcels that were cleared during urban renewal now coming in for redevelopment wholesale. We're seeing different code requirements such as FEMA or building codes that have been updated numerous times since the inception of the district, sort of manifesting itself into design. So with that, and that is one of the areas we've been struggling with, because it's like trying to paint a car while it's moving down the road. We're seeing further, by the time we start writing, we see other changes that we want to capture within the guidelines themselves. And Heather coming on has been really a great resource for us, because she's been really dedicated to this project and in addition to other projects. And we feel that we are now on a path to hopefully in 2025 getting these adopted by council and getting them in place. So with that, preservation as a whole, it evolves. The different references that you have and regulatory authority kind of stays fixed, but the envelope of historic preservation and appropriate compatible infill construction, someone gets re-evaluated from time to time. Your code in Chapter 27 provides a specific authority to the commission. The Secretary of the Interior standards, which we reference often, are really targeted for the historic resources within a district. If you look at the Secretary of the Interior standards of all the different treatments, they're targeted towards preservation and adaptive reuse of historic structures, not so much new construction. So as you kind of go down the funnel of review, your most precise review tool becomes your local design guidelines or standards in our case. And that's what we want to really provide the commissions as a resource and a reference material, and in addition to city staff that's reviewing and our clientele, so that everybody is kind of playing by the same set of regulations and expectations.
I like how you laid it out, and I like that you broke it out so that when people bring projects, submit projects for Barrio Latino, you are able to provide them the guidelines that apply to their specific project, because it's overwhelming and people struggle coming through Barrio Latino with some of the requirements that are out there. So I like the way you guys have laid it out.
I know you mentioned something about materials, and obviously you just mentioned FEMA. is windows something that are they always looking at, like, you know, single pane, double pane, impact resisting, and what is it that we have to consider or think about in the future as climate change becomes more and more apparent or more threatening, I guess?
So, you know, one nuance to keep in mind as you're looking at the guidelines, and, you know, I think that's why we began with new construction, is because you have sort of two different silos when you're dealing with new construction versus when you're dealing with a historic preservation of a contributing structure. And so, you know, with the importance of maintaining original materials and historic structures, obviously you take a much more conservative approach on introducing materials that are not original to that structure. You also have to meet building code, so you have that sort of layered in there. And there are materials out there which are either original materials or that closely replicate original materials that are accepted within the, you know, the guise of adaptive reuse and rehabilitation of historic structures. When you jump over to the new construction side, there's more flexibility. You certainly want those materials to be referenced as historically compatible, so that you're not having any sort of unintended adverse impact to the environment of the district, but you have more latitude on what types of materials can be used. I think as a baseline to try to keep you know, some sort of boundaries and you know, a common language, we have approached that traditionally, and the board has approached that as being that the material selections should be historically referenced. In other words, they should reflect the character of historic buildings within the district. And but as far as the composition of the materials, you can certainly look at newer materials, different evolving materials, and we're constantly out there trying to learn about new materials. The market is so robust, it's so difficult to stay ahead of it, but we try to keep up with it. And within Florida, particularly with the building codes and with the issues on sustainability and climate change, we're you know, often kind of chasing those issues to make sure that they can be rolled into our program.
That brings forward another question in my mind. I know the city's been looking at a climate action plan. Are there things at work in the background that potentially could come forward in the next year or two that might require a revision again or reconsideration of some of the parts of the standards as we move forward?
We've talked about that internally and in other, you know, other facets behind those plans that are being developed. And I think that's one reason why we've broken this down into so many different areas, is so that we can kind of extract and you know, insert more updated information more easily. The way that the original guidelines are developed, they're just the whole, you get it all or none, you know. Right. So we talked about being able to kind of incrementally update these, or even add to them as emerging technologies necessitate a change.
So I just want to reiterate some of the comments made by some of my other fellow commissioners. I really like the format, and I know that we did a not quite as comprehensive overhaul of the other guidelines for the other districts, but are you considering reformatting those in a similar manner in the next year or so that those kind of feel the same, so that as you move from one district to another, there's some similarities? Because I really feel like this is much more user-friendly, having you know, been on the other commission for 6 years.
Everything but that last part where you said another year or so. So we're you know, that's in our plan to deal with the other districts, and I have ideas about how to make that manageable. But we're focusing on EBOR right now, and really want to kind of get this done. It's been a long-term project that's kind of suffered from, you know, different things over the years, and it's a goal of mine to get done and get to you, you know, in the near future.
Thank you.
At some point in time, are you planning on coming to the EBOR CAC and presenting this same information? This has come up at the EBOR CAC multiple times. What's the timeline for that?
Well, it was built into, our process. One thing that we realized was that we needed to go out to the public with a draft, so they can respond to it, and rather than just having it open, an open discussion, because it's too large of a subject, but there are, pinpoints of process that engage the community, and there's gonna be, outreach, opportunities like this, where we kind of bring it out to the public, the viewing public can review this, it's on our website, and then we're gonna target our stakeholders, when we have a more formulated draft to be able to respond to. We don't wanna have, too many, versions of comments that have to be accommodated at perhaps not the right interval. So, one thing we will be providing you is a current draft that reflects staff comments and some comments from the HPC. We want you to, take your time and look at that, and then provide myself and Heather feedback on that, more informally at this point, and then later on, when we bring it back to you for formal recommendation, we're gonna have that at a noticed hearing and have the public, I'm sure, engaged as well.
Okay.
So what's the timeline for that, for the public involvement?
It would probably be in early 2025 at this point. We're focusing on bringing the sections to the HPC at the upcoming meetings. We're trying to bring one to them at each meeting that we have every 2 months.
And I noticed a few comments there on, like, when we talk about the historic fabric of the district, you had mentioned lot lines, and we're seeing a lot of projects come through and that are larger than the original lot lines on blocks, and you also talked about maintaining alleys. Are you how much of that language is gonna be kind of put into the design guidelines, or is it kind of a general overview? Because, the lot lines have certainly skewed over time. I think it's always been important to maintain the historic fabric and the alleys in the area. Are you addressing that specifically within the design guidelines?
You can handle that one?
Yes, as part of the guidelines, we're supporting and encouraging them to keep the historic lot lines, or at least the proportions when it comes to setbacks. Obviously, there's some projects coming forward that are large-scale projects. So they would need to go through the proper zoning process if they were going to combine lots or anything like that. But from our point of view, we want to encourage the original lot lines, especially in the residential areas.
And then, always a hot topic, also is demolition of contributing structures, demolition by neglect. Is that gonna get addressed in the design guidelines, or is that more of a chapter 27 with the city?
We do have a paragraph in that developable parcels page that addresses demolition by neglect, and stating that the BLC could have the authority to have them reconstruct what was there.
So in that's kind of consistent with chapter 27. I mean, really the teeth is in chapter 27 for that.
Yes, well, historic preservation is part of chapter 27, so all of our BLC codes fall under chapter 27. We're encompassed in part of that.
And one other thing that you mentioned was the rooftop structures. We're seeing a lot more of that happen. You said it was something for us to review based on how much of the roof area could be used for that, as well as setbacks for height. Are you guys gonna propose something that you think is a starting point for that, or is that something that we kind of come up with some numbers for?
That is on that page. We do have specific numbers on that page for you all to review. If you have any discussions or feedback, we'd be happy to hear that, but we do have specific numbers that we've already considered, which could lead us to our next
I was gonna
section.
say, that's a great segue to our next section, so whenever you're ready for that.
So this is applying the standards to additions. We reference the standards for rehabilitation from the Secretary of Interior. The main two of their standards are 9 and 10. And we also use the preservation briefs, which give specific guidance to additions. And here's how we incorporated the preservation brief and the Secretary of the Interior's direct standards into our guidelines. These are what we consider the main five: height, scale, massing, materials, and rhythm. That's what we'd really be looking for when it comes to an addition. This is directly from the preservation brief. These are the standards broken down into how to make a project appropriate, and they're the heart of compatibility. These examples are from Preservation Brief 14. They show additions that are properly delineated by a setback or a step-in, but use similar materials, articulation, and proportions as to not be obtrusive to the original structure. That's an important word throughout the preservation brief. Here's how our standards have been applied for new additions. Again, you see that there's a step back. The addition is the more plain brick building. It's not obtrusive. It does not take away from the historic structure. It's connected through a hyphen. The roof line is lower. So that's an appropriate addition. It's a large addition and it's to the side, but it's properly delineated and uses some of the same materials, but again, not obtrusive. Another one, again, it uses the same type of siding, same foundation, even same materials, but it's stepped in, pushed down, and has a lower height. And this one is from Hyde Park. You can see this one's had a few additions, but again, the roof line is altered. It's stepped back. This is from a corner, so it's not as visible from the primary facade. Again, using the same materials, it does not take away from the historic fabric. Here it is in plain view. And these address rooftop additions, specifically in Preservation Brief 14. Mainly, it's about the sight of line. How much can you see it? How much does it distract from the historic district? The preservation brief states that sightline mock-ups are essential to evaluate the impact of proposed rooftop additions to historic buildings. So that's something that we should be looking for when proposals come in for rooftop additions, is that they should be providing a sightline plan. These are two examples. The one on the right, the rooftop addition was built to the rear, so you cannot see it from the front. The one on the left, it's pushed back, so you can't really see it unless you're standing way back on the corner. But it still, again, uses the same type of materials and windows. It's just stepped back, and that's the way it's delineated, and the visual impact is lessened. Here are our design standards. Here are those specific numbers I discussed earlier. For the roof height, if it's 35 feet or less, because it's lower and more visible, we would say it needs to be set back at least 25 feet. As it gets higher, we reduce that, because obviously as it gets higher, it's the visual impact is lessened. And I believe we also have somewhere in there that a rooftop structure can occupy 25% or less of the roof area. So those are some of those specific numbers that we are suggesting, and we're open for discussion.
Does that also address mechanical equipment that's on the roof, or that's?
This one doesn't specifically address mechanical. We have a separate section,
for
but
that. Okay.
that does address shielding, but it doesn't give those specific dimensions for rooftop mechanicals. And here's two local examples. One here is the restaurant up top, and they've scooted their staircase back. They did use a different material. Again, it's inset, pushed back. It's delineated, but not obtrusive. Same with the residential example, where they've added some residence to the top of a commercial structure in Ybor. Here are from other countries. These, when I use the word unobstructive, this is the opposite. These countries may not have the same preservation standards as we do, but this is just a throw-in for fun to show why standards are important. These are real examples. And just any discussion you may have just about applying the standards for additions.
For the rooftop, so the two examples that you showed in E were the restaurant and the one with the residences above, those look like they occupy more than 25% of the roof. So I was just curious how you got to that number.
That was studying the preservation briefs and other cities. That's one of the numbers that they found to be successful. Obviously, it's case by case, so it could be a very large roof, and if it's a very long building and they set it back enough, maybe they could occupy 40–50% if it's a linear building and they built more towards the back. So it's a case by case. It's just a general number to get us started.
Okay, great, thank you.
Now, those the setbacks from the front facade in the guidelines, I recall seeing, at least I think I recall seeing that it said from visibility from a public right-of-way. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes the rear buildings are on a side street or the next street over, mm-hmm. but it's still a public right-of-way. So how would we be expected to respond to that?
I think generally we're concerned with the primary facade and how visible or impactful that rear addition is. If it's another secondary street and not something like 7th Avenue, maybe that's something that we consider in the evaluation. But we do ask that the setbacks are from the visual areas, but particularly the front facade.
You might want to be a little bit more clear in the guidelines with respect to that, because just saying not visible from the public right-of-way, an alley is a public right-of-way, and that could cause a lot of consternation among some developers when they're trying to make projects work.
Something to consider, thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Just want to thank you for your time. This is an open dialogue, so we'll continue, as I said, to bring information to you and to schedule more workshops. We kind of seized the moment for today. A lot of the information that we decided to present to you today is sort of, in real-time development or real-time issues that we're seeing kind of emerging in the district. So hopefully it becomes useful for you at least to contemplate as you have your upcoming hearings and different considerations before you. So with that, that concludes our workshop for this morning, and I'll turn it back over to your chair.
Okay. And the general, you said you're going to distribute everything that we saw today to us electronically.
Yes.
Is there a timeline for getting our comments back to you prior to the next meeting, or what's the more immediate timeline with that?
I would say, if we could have some time, I mean, I know it's summertime and everybody's very busy, but if we can have some feedback on what we're going to send you in the next 4 to 5 weeks, that would be very helpful for us, so that we can kind of finalize each section before we're really kind of bringing you a new section.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? No? Everyone's good? Questions? Do we need a motion to receive and file? Okay.
Yes,
okay. Well, I think the exhibits that were...
These exhibits. All right, motion to receive and file the exhibits that were presented at this public hearing on Tuesday, June 25th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, all in favor said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Seeing no business before the board, we are now adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.